In trying to understand the idea of compulsions or, well, obsessions, whatever one calls them, a compulsion, as of what I've recently observed by, well, receiving answers somewhat from my system, well, when it comes to an obsession or a compulsion, typically there are two of them. They seem to always be paired together. I'm not sure how much psychologists and psychiatrists may agree, but typically a compulsion is, well, basically a cycle like everything else. Meaning is also, in a way, psychological. And a compulsion appears because of a certain sense of lack, typically. When people, for example, lack attention or haven't received enough touch, attention, cuddles, and the such, or emotion from their parents, they feel a bit starved about that. And a lot of people will go to great extents to try to balance that in their life. And, well, we can see, especially through mainstream media and the such, a lot of people do crazy things just to win a few likes. But when you look at them in the eyes, they're kind of easily observable that they're extremely fake. All they want is, the drugs, the emotional output that they receive when, they receive those likes or some nice comments or the such, or when they have what their ego might think a huge number of likes. When it comes to doing things again and again, typically it becomes a habit. A habit is basically something enforced. When you want to do something again and again and you call it a habit, typically it is enforced because a habit means something repetitive. Your brain won't naturally like doing something repetitive because it is damaging to it. Think about, for example, the job that people have when as cashiers at supermarkets, right? When they take your goods, they scan them and they put them, beyond the scanner. That is called one of the more damaging or brain damaging jobs in the world because of its repetitiveness. A highly destructive job was the one on the assembly lines and still is practiced today, where lots of people stay in line and there is a band that moves and there are PCs and the such that come and they have to assemble constantly all sorts of things. Typically they don't know how to assemble the whole piece, but they know how to put a certain piece where they belong. And while that's basically the job that they're gonna do for a long time, this was a job that appeared in the industrial age, right, when it started, because there were needed a lot of pieces to assemble huge machines. So a compulsion is something that you do repetitively. All compulsions are bad in the end because in a way you're damaging your brain. You can do something consciously or you can do something unconsciously. When you do something consciously, fully consciously, it doesn't matter what time you do. It doesn't matter when you do it. If you have a certain openness towards it, you will simply do it. It doesn't matter whether it is first time in the morning or before you go to bed or you wake up in the middle of the night and suddenly decide to do it and you do it. It's like doing something that you truly love, something that you are truly open towards. A lot of people have, for example, hobbies, and they turn unfortunately into habits, and that's why they tend to become tedious and they will give them up sooner or later. One other reason why they give it up is because they set themselves up for failure. They may probably end up making way too unrealistic expectations of the possible outcomes and of themselves. And at the same time, low esteem is not good to have habits because habit requires a lot of discipline, but ultimately is not necessarily useful because habit in the end means a set of psychological aspects. You're creating some meaning in your mind in which you're forcing yourself to do something. But when you force yourself to do something, what you're actually doing is sabotaging yourself because you're preparing yourself for failure. You will say your stupid brain doesn't want to collaborate. Obviously, it doesn't want to collaborate, and stop calling it stupid. It's doing billions of things per second. You should have a bit more respect towards your body because it's gonna be the only true friend that you have, until death does you apart. Your parents will probably turn against you. Your friends probably will turn against you. Some people come and, well, they'll also leave from your life. Everything is cyclical. But your physical body, well, you only have one cycle with it. And, well, when that ends, well, farewell to this life. All your businesses are simply finished. When you do something repetitively and you attach psychological and mental meanings to it or importances to it, you create a stronger and stronger cycle, which is called a karmic cycle. Or, well, it's kind of a pleonasm actually. It is a cycle. And even if you give this up, a cycle means it will come back to your mind sooner or later. It may come in years, it may come in months, it may come at most in 12 years and a quarter, which, according to Hindu traditions, it is the largest a cycle can be, the longest a cycle can be. If a cycle is this long, typically it also means it is somewhat weak, because a very strong cycle is strong through the fact that it constantly repeats. Take, for example, self destructive behaviors like smoking and others like that, right? They constantly repeat, and those people seem to, bash out of those very hard. I think I made a few other videos on compulsions. And see, when you need to understand a compulsion typically is a response to something, typically a lack. And one needs to feel that lack, that loss, or something like that. Some people, when they lose someone dear, they start smoking, they get back to other self destructive behaviors. Now, the bigger problem is, a lot of people may seem to skip, is that this is not basically the obsession you're suffering from. You're repeating stuff from the past, yes, but the problem and the root of the obsession is an emotional necessity, yes? Because we all seek stability. And the problem is, when you pick up an obsession, and, well, an obsession means you're unconscious while doing it, it means you think you found a sense of stability. And what you're doing is you're actually seeking that comfort, that idea of that sense of stability. In a way, it is a lie because an obsession is never something healthy. It's like smoking and you're telling yourself, it doesn't matter, it's gonna be the last, or drinking and this is gonna be the last drink, or you're gonna play your self-destructive game yet again and say, oh, let's have some fun, and all sorts of things like that. You find it as a necessity because you seek to escape the mundane, and that's why people with low esteem, they dive into obsessions, because in the end, an obsession is far easier to do compared to a conscious act, right? Like, what's easier to do? Relapse in the same behaviors, even self destructive behaviors you've been doing for much of your life, thanks to parents, ideas, lacks, and all sorts of background aspects, or trying to do something new, like, for example, uh, I don't know, sitting in nature for 10 minutes, closing your eyes and focusing on your breath as much as possible. A lot of people will typically fail before 2 minutes. It's not much of a deal if you move around. It's all important that you focus on your breath. All thoughts that come through your mind, just let them flow in the end. You might actually start seeing images at times. It's just free cinema. One shouldn't uh, one shouldn't focus too much on this. So remember the idea that an obsession is strong not only because you already have a huge karmic structure for it. The problem also is that the karmic cycle wants itself released. Everything that is not fulfilled wants release, it wants liberation. And in order to reach liberation, you need to let that flow go around, go out. An obsession, when it comes, it is just like a wave or a set of waves. You see, if you do something else, or let's say you just stretch on your back, close your eyes, and just think about doing that obsession. Imagine you're doing it, but don't do necessarily anything. Think at all the emotions that you've been going through, and just let it flow. You'll see in 2 or 3 minutes the waves will simply go. The cycle will return some other time, but if one finds means to be conscious when those times happen instead of relapsing into your obsessions, that's a good thing to start life and improving your life. The other point was the obsession for doing or for getting stability. because that obsession replaces, or you think it replaces, something like I don't know, stability, comfort, attention, emotion, drama, whatever one feels obsessed with. There is always this other, more hidden aspect of it, right? It is the hidden aspect that is very powerful. It is actually the power that supports the obsession, because the obsession in the end is just a thought. You think that by doing that you're empowering yourself or you're fixing a certain problem. But how are you fixing a problem if you have to constantly do it again and again and again? It's like you have to fix a pipe and it blows up again and again and again, and you patch the hole and it blows up yet again. You need stronger materials, or you need a better approach, or probably you need to simply change that aspect. You cannot change an obsession. If you find another one instead, you're still in the same shit. The simple point is trying to become conscious of the reasons why you're doing that. How is it making you feel? That's a very powerful question. How is it making you feel? Typically like trash. But you're ignoring that because behind that obsession there is another obsession, which is the one for meaning, the one for receiving something, the one for being observed, for being loved or appreciated even. This second aspect is a bit harder for me to explain in words because I can feel it much better than I can explain it in words. But it is definitely the salvation. It is definitely that which can help you get out of that. Because once you realize you don't have any stability and that this obsession and doing it is nothing else but a lie, you break this aspect, this second hidden aspect, right? This little second obsession, which is technically the bigger one, because this is what is making you invest emotionally and psychologically into the first one. So, hopefully, this video raised a bit of awareness. Take care, enjoy life, and this being said, Ferenjan Board signing out.